Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Booker channel. I hope you enjoy listening to books. Today, I'll be interpreting Economics in 2 Lessons, which might remind you of another book, Economics in 1 Lesson. Yes, this Economics in 2 Lessons is specifically written in response to Economics in 1 Lesson. Economics in 1 Lesson is a classic bestseller that has been continuously reprinted since its publication in 1946. Translated into 8 languages, it has sold over 1 million copies worldwide. Now, regarding Economics in 2 Lessons, it's not merely riding the coattails of Economics in 1 Lesson. The author and the subject of this book both carry substantial weight. The author, John Quiggin, is an economics professor at the University of Queensland in Australia, a visiting professor at Johns Hopkins University in the United States, and a Fellow of the Academy of the Social Sciences in Australia. Since 2004, his academic rankings in economic paper databases have consistently placed him in the top 5% globally. He's been honored with awards such as the Medal of the Academy of the Social Sciences in Australia and the Distinguished Fellow Award by the Economic Society of Australia, earning him recognition as a revered economist in Australia. From John Quiggin's perspective, Economics in 1 Lesson has significant limitations. Its core viewpoint emphasizes that good economics should not only consider the direct effects of policies but also their indirect consequences. It advocates not just focusing on the impact of economic policies on specific groups but also considering their effects on all groups. However, Quiggin believes that this book oversimplifies complex issues. While Economics in 1 Lesson gained popularity with its concise and dramatic conclusions, it simplifies complex problems, which, according to Quiggin, can be misleading in understanding the complexities of the real world. To truly comprehend the truth of a matter, knowing only one side is insufficient. Many economists share a similar perspective, including the eminent economist Samuelson, who once remarked that to understand economics, one needs not only the fundamental principles but also an awareness of subtle differences. The devil lies in the details. While many endorse Economics in 1 Lesson, Quiggin suggests revisiting the 2nd lesson. Princeton University Press approached John Quiggin for a contribution, leading him to spend 8 years completing Economics in 2 Lessons. This publication serves as both a correction and supplement to Economics in 1 Lesson. Next, I'll explore the disparities between Economics in 2 Lessons and Economics in 1 Lesson from the standpoint of income distribution and labor employment. I aim to elucidate the core principles of Economics in 2 Lessons, and hope that today's interpretation will further enhance your understanding of economics, ultimately improving your ability to analyze issues with a broader perspective. Let's first explore the differences between Economics in 1 Lesson and Economics in 2 Lessons regarding income distribution, specifically their viewpoints on unions and minimum wage laws. According to Economics in 1 Lesson, income distribution determined by the market is the most rational. In this scenario, every worker receives their fair share, and any governmental intervention in the labor market, including establishing minimum wage laws and supporting unionization, diminishes market efficiency and harms workers' interests. Initially, this might seem odd as most people perceive unions and minimum wage laws as protective measures for workers. But according to this perspective, wages are determined by market supply and demand, much like any other commodity in the market. For instance, consider a town with a clothing factory requiring 100 workers and a bakery needing 50. There are 200 people willing to work in this town, with 160 preferring the clothing factory and 40 the bakery. In this scenario, the clothing factory has an excess of labor, leading to wage reductions, while the bakery faces a labor shortage, leading to wage increases. However, if both factories expand and need more workers, wages will tend to increase for both due to the increased demand for labor. Wages are also determined by labor productivity, meaning the value created by employees equals the wages they receive. In economic terms, wages equal marginal output. To raise wages, labor productivity must increase. For instance, if bakery workers generate $300 per day and are paid $200, the company would hire more workers to increase profits but would have to offer higher wages to attract them. However, interventions like minimum wage laws distort the market, creating inefficiencies and resource misallocation. For example, if the market-determined wage for bakery workers is $280 but a minimum wage law sets it at $300, the factory might lay off workers or face losses, disrupting the optimal resource allocation. Similarly, union restrictions on firing or hiring non-union members can hinder economic adjustments, causing inefficiencies during market fluctuations. These interventions, while seemingly advocating for workers, might hinder labor productivity, potentially leading to unemployment. Therefore, while appearing beneficial on the surface, they might ultimately harm workers' interests in the long term, according to Economics in One Lesson. So, how does Economics in Two Lessons view this? Firstly, it acknowledges the validity of economics in one lesson, especially when the minimum wage surpasses the wage determined by market supply and demand, inevitably leading to reduced employment. This is a crucial lesson. However, in reality, if market competition is insufficient or the minimum wage hasn't exceeded the market equilibrium level, increasing it won't cause unemployment but will increase workers' earnings. The book introduces a renowned study from 1992 in New Jersey, where the minimum wage increased from $4.25 to $5.05 per hour. Economists David Card and Alan Kruger surveyed 410 fast food restaurants in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. They found that New Jersey's fast food establishments, after the wage hike, hired 13% more employees than those in Pennsylvania. Surprisingly, those New Jersey establishments paying higher wages, similar to Pennsylvania's, maintained their employment levels. Only those compelled to increase wages added employees. This outcome contrasts economic theory, suggesting that raising the minimum wage reduces employment. Yet, in reality, the opposite occurs. One explanation is that in the labor market, businesses hold relatively stronger positions and can suppress wages below workers' marginal output. Thus, raising the minimum wage doesn't affect employment but merely aligns wages with actual productivity. Another explanation suggests that increasing the minimum wage might boost employee morale, reduce turnover, and enhance productivity, potentially offsetting increased labor costs and encouraging hiring. Economics in Two Lessons implies that the labor market doesn't strictly operate as a simple supply-demand model. Other factors like bargaining power, pricing authority, worker effort, and turnover might influence it. This is where unions play a role. According to Economics in Two Lessons, negotiations between workers and employers differ in the labor market. If the economy achieves full employment, both sides' bargaining capacities roughly balance. However, this scenario isn't usual. Due to economic cycles, which spend at least half their time in recession, job seekers exceed job opportunities. This places workers at a disadvantage in bargaining. The author uses an analogy from Robinson Crusoe, where saving a captive named Friday eventually made Friday his servant. If this relationship were seen as a transaction, both benefited, but Friday's need was greater. Similarly, in the employment relationship, if workers refuse, they lose their income source, unlike employers who merely seek replacements. Thus, their bargaining power vastly differs. However, if workers unite in a union, their bargaining position changes. This unification allows workers to leverage strikes as negotiation tools. If negotiations fail, workers lose wages, but employers face shutdowns. This levels the bargaining field significantly, benefiting workers. For instance, according to a report from the American Institute for Economic Research, the 17 states with the highest union density, on average, had minimum wages 19% higher than the national average and a $6,000 higher median income than the national average. They also had higher rates of unemployment insurance recipiency. In this book, the author reveals through union development that as unions decline, workers' share in national income decreases, especially in the U.S., where many workers' wages stagnate or decline. Numerous studies correlate union decline with declining worker status. Even the IMF, typically leaning towards market approaches, previously attributed half the income growth of the wealthiest 10% to weakened unions. Therefore, widening income gaps are linked to declining union influence. In summary, Economics in One Lesson argues that in income distribution, in a freely competitive labor market, wages equal workers' marginal output, maximizing resource allocation efficiency. Conversely, unions and minimum wages reduce economic efficiency, damaging society, including workers' interests. However, economics in two lessons implies that many assumptions, like perfect competition, symmetric information, and free migration, might not hold in reality. Consequently, unions and minimum wage laws benefit workers as wages might deviate from their marginal output. This is their fundamental difference. Next, let's examine the differences in social employment issues between these economic theories and their views on government intervention in the economy. We can start with a prediction from Economics in One Lesson. So, how does Economics in Two Lessons view this? Firstly, it acknowledges the validity of Economics in One Lesson, especially in its critique of the broken window fallacy. Economics in One Lesson extends this to other phenomena, indicating that events like wars and natural disasters don't stimulate the economy but rather constitute a waste of wealth. Similarly, it perceives government price controls or providing goods for poverty alleviation as poor economic policies. These actions conceal a critical economic concept behind them: opportunity cost, the benefits people forego to gain something else. Considering all the consequences, the opportunity cost of government intervention in the economy often exceeds its benefits. Hence, Economics in One Lesson advocates for laissez-faire economic policies. This book acknowledges the rationality within this perspective but also points out its limitations. Economics in One Lesson contends that market prices reflect and determine the opportunity costs for consumers and producers. It believes that the market regulates the behaviors of consumers and producers, benefiting everyone through market price transactions. However, this is an ideal scenario, achievable only in a situation of complete competition and full information. Actual markets rarely achieve such conditions. There's a disparity between individual and social opportunity costs. In simpler terms, Economics in One Lesson only considers issues from the producers' and consumers' perspectives, while Economics in Two Lessons contemplates the overall societal costs. This is their major distinction. Regarding employment, Economics in One Lesson posits that long-term economic decline and extensive unemployment are implausible. It suggests that in an economic downturn, businesses lower prices, enhancing sales, while people lowering wage demands induce more hiring, thus ending the recession and restoring full employment, an ideal situation according to Economics in One Lesson. However, historical events like the Great Depression of 1929 or the 2008 financial crisis irrefutably demonstrate the existence of prolonged economic decline and extensive unemployment. This perspective shifts to Economics in Two Lessons, which views recession and unemployment as inevitable due to economic cycles. Economics in Two Lessons contends that under conditions of unemployment, wages cannot reflect workers' opportunity costs. This means even if workers don't work, there might not be any earning opportunities available, or even if the unemployed are willing to lower wage demands, they still might not find jobs. This leads to idle labor and resource wastage. Only when wages drop nearly to zero will economic recovery initiate, a lengthy and painful process. In this context, the broken window fallacy's conclusion would differ. Economics in One Lesson claims that breaking windows doesn't boost the economy because replacing the glass has an opportunity cost. Money spent on window repairs could have been used by the shopkeeper to buy new clothes, not expanding consumption. However, this conclusion is founded on the implied assumption of full employment. In a recession with widespread unemployment, the scenario changes. Consider the mischievous child breaking the grocery store window mentioned earlier. If the window isn't broken, the shopkeeper refrains from increasing spending, which could keep the economy stagnant. But once the window is broken, forcing the shopkeeper to spend $200 on repairs, the glassmaker might spend $100 on new clothes, while the tailor might spend $50 on bread. This increases income for the glassmaker, tailor, and baker, thereby boosting overall production and employment in society. Therefore, government-initiated public projects might stimulate economic growth, even in certain situations where war or natural disasters might have a stimulating effect. According to some economists, during the Great Depression in the 1930s, large-scale public projects initiated by Roosevelt alleviated unemployment shocks, but it was World War II that truly pulled America out of depression. This perspective illustrates a story where a mischievous child breaking a window indirectly contributes to economic growth. However, this premise operates under the condition of economic recession and significant idle resources, much as Economics in One Lesson emphasizes that war doesn't inherently generate wealth, and government intervention cannot improve resource allocation efficiency. Considering these points, we see a significant divergence between Economics in One Lesson and Economics in Two Lessons concerning employment. The former believes that labor employment is regulated and safeguarded by the market, whereas the government often serves as the root cause of economic fluctuations. In contrast, the latter sees that market mechanisms cannot ensure full employment and regards recession as an inherent aspect of market economies, requiring certain policies to alleviate the negative effects of economic fluctuations. In my view, the perspective of Economics in One Lesson is based on certain assumed conditions and represents an ideal situation, but these conditions don't entirely align with the real world, resulting in skewed conclusions. On the other hand, Economics in Two Lessons considers more premises, making it more broadly applicable and offering a stronger explanatory power. If one aims to delve deeper into economics, understanding both perspectives is essential. As we reach this point, the interpretation of this book is drawing to a close. Let's summarize. In today's interpretation, we explored the differences between Economics in One Lesson and Economics in Two Lessons, by examining income distribution and labor employment. To put it simply, Economics in One Lesson believes that market-determined income distribution is the most rational approach. It asserts that in such scenarios, each worker receives their fair share. Any government intervention in the labor market, including setting minimum wage laws and supporting union organizations, might reduce market efficiency, harming workers' interests. On the other hand, Economics in Two Lessons perceives the market as a complex game. Due to varying competitive positions, businesses often hold more bargaining power than workers. Therefore, unions and minimum wage laws might help rectify market inequalities. Regarding labor employment, Economics in One Lesson suggests that job opportunities are determined by the market. It implies that most economic problems result from human intervention. During economic downturns, governmental involvement might worsen the situation. Conversely, Economics in Two Lessons argues that markets cannot always ensure employment for everyone. Recession and unemployment are inevitable in market economies, potentially leading to social issues. Thus, it suggests that the government needs to take measures to stabilize the economy, reduce unemployment, and social losses. Beyond these points, the original books of Economics in One Lesson and Economics in Two Lessons also discuss issues like specialization in international trade, prices and opportunity costs, currency, and financial crises. I recommend interested individuals to explore further readings on these topics. Lastly, it's important to reiterate that there's no straightforward right or wrong between Economics in One Lesson and Economics in Two Lessons. The former believes that evaluating economic policies should consider the long term and the entire society, not just short-term or specific groups. It highlights the market as an efficient resource allocation mechanism, cautioning against frequent government interventions that might lead to unforeseen negative consequences. However, its limitation lies in only considering market prices reflecting and determining costs for consumers and producers, assuming the market signifies optimality. Yet, the costs of societal operations in reality often exceed market price categories, leading to market failures. Hence, we need Economics in Two Lessons to gain a more comprehensive understanding of economic phenomena. Compared to Economics in One Lesson, Economics in Two Lessons is more challenging as it neither accepts the simple conclusions of the former nor endorses that government intervention can entirely solve problems. In many cases, the solutions proposed by Economics in Two Lessons, by integrating market and government factors, might be elusive, discomforting, or even bewildering. However, for those seeking to enhance their understanding, it's necessary to comprehend Economics in Two Lessons. Only when we employ contrasting perspectives can we thoroughly comprehend the truth of things. Well, that wraps up the interpretation of this book. Congratulations on completing another book. Thank you all for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with your friends. Let's combine wisdom and practice to achieve our financial goals and create a better future. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.